The massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. It was bigger than most planets, and home to the Galactic Council. Ships from across the galaxy came here every day to trade, talk, and make deals. The station had been the center of peace for 300 years. Elena Chen walked through the long metal hallways of the station. Her shoes made soft sounds on the floor as she headed to the council meeting room. She was the only human allowed to speak for all of Earth and its colonies. The other aliens called her Ambassador Chen, but they never listened to what she said. The council meeting room was huge. It could hold thousands of beings from different worlds. Elena took her seat in the small section marked for observers. This was where the unimportant species had to sit. She looked around at the 5 main seats where the powerful aliens sat. The Zephyrians were tall and thin with big heads. They could read minds and talk to each other without speaking. Their leader was called the Prime Mind, and it glowed with a soft blue light. The Zephyrians thought they were the smartest beings in the galaxy. Next to them sat the Chrommech collective. They were robots that had replaced their original creators long ago. Their bodies were made of dark metal, and their eyes glowed red. They made the best machines and weapons in the galaxy. Admiral Zix-9 was their speaker today. He looked like a walking tank with arms. The Veish Empire had the biggest army. They were lizard-like creatures with scales and sharp teeth. War Marshal Kethrak was their leader. He was 7 feet tall with scars all over his green skin. The Veish loved to fight and had conquered many worlds. The Etherians were the oldest race in the galaxy. They had been alive for millions of years and looked like floating jellyfish made of light. Elder Synthesis spoke for them. Its voice sounded like wind through old trees. The Etherians knew many secrets but rarely shared them. The last group was strange. The Nexari were pure energy beings that looked like glowing clouds. They could change shape and move through solid objects. Nobody really understood them, but they were very powerful. Their speaker was just a ball of yellow light that called itself Unity. Elena had been coming to these meetings for 10 years. Every time, the 5 big species made all the decisions. Humans were allowed to watch but not vote. They said Earth was too new and too weak to have a real voice. Today's meeting was about trade routes and mining rights. The Chrommech wanted to expand their mining operations to new star systems. The Veish wanted to build more military bases. The Zephyrians wanted to study primitive species on new worlds. The Sector 7 Alpha has good mineral deposits, Admiral Zix-9 said in his electronic voice. The collective requires access for mining operations. War Marshal Kethrak looked at the star map floating in the center of the room. That sector borders human space. The humans have weak ships. They cannot defend it anyway. Elena stood up slowly. Excuse me, but that sector has 3 human colonies. New Eden has 7 million farmers living there. The whole room went quiet for a moment. Then War Marshal Kethrak started laughing. His rough voice echoed through the chamber. Did the little human just speak without permission? Kethrak said. Humans are like children playing with toys they found. You have 12 small worlds and think you matter. The prime mind of the Zephyrians glowed brighter. The human mind is simple. They think in straight lines. No creativity. No vision. Elder Synthesis floated higher above its seat. In all our years, we have seen many young species. Humans are not ready for expansion. You need more time to grow up. Unity, the Nexari energy being, pulsed with different colors. Humans are amusing, like watching babies learn to walk. Elena felt her face get hot, but she kept her expression calm. The colonies in Sector 7 Alpha are legally ours under galactic law. We filed the proper claims 50 years ago. Admiral Zix-9's red eyes focused on her. Legal claims are irrelevant. Efficiency matters. The collective can extract minerals in 1 month. Humans would take 50 years with their primitive tools. The minerals are worth more than your colonies. War Marshal Kethrak added. Move your people somewhere else. Elena looked around the room. Not one of the powerful aliens was on her side. They had already decided what would happen. The human colonies meant nothing to them. We formally object to this decision, Elena said. Object all you want. Kethrak said with another laugh. What will you do? Fight us? Your entire fleet has 30 old ships. My personal guard has more firepower. The council voted quickly. Sector 7 Alpha would be opened for Chrommech mining operations. Human colonies would be relocated at their own expense. The decision was final. Elena gathered her papers and stood up. She had expected this to happen, but it still hurt to see how little they cared about human lives. As she walked toward the exit, she could hear them already talking about the next topic. Ambassador Chen, War Marshal Kethrak called out. She turned back to look at him. Tell your people to stay out of important sectors. The galaxy is for real species, not children playing pretend. Elena nodded politely. I will deliver your message. She left the council chamber and walked back to her small office in the human section of the station. The office was tiny compared to the huge spaces the other species had. Elena sat down at her desk and turned on her communication device. This is Ambassador Chen calling Earth Command. Priority 1 message. The screen showed Admiral Harrison, head of Earth Space Forces. He was an older man with gray hair and serious eyes. How did it go? Harrison asked. As expected, they voted against us. Sector 7 Alpha is being given to the Chrommech for mining. Harrison nodded. And New Eden? 7 million people have to find new homes. The council doesn't care. Any resistance? Elena almost smiled. War. Marshal Kethrak said our entire fleet couldn't fight his personal guard. Did he now? Harrison looked thoughtful. How amusing. Are we ready? Elena asked. Harrison checked something on his desk. The fleet finished final preparations last week. All hidden bases are operational. Project Revelation is ready to begin on your order. Elena looked out her office window at the stars. For 50 years, humanity had been playing the role of weak newcomers. They had built colonies, traded goods, and sent diplomats to endless meetings. Everyone thought they knew what humans were capable of. They were wrong. Not yet, Elena said. Let them make the first move. Let them show the galaxy what they really think of human life. And when they do, Elena's reflection in the window looked different now. Her diplomatic smile was gone. In its place was something the galaxy had never seen on a human face before. Then we remind them why Earth survived ice ages, meteor strikes, and global wars before we ever reached the stars. 3 weeks after the council meeting, Elena Chen was eating breakfast in her quarters when the emergency alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed in the hallways of Nexus Prime. The sound meant something terrible had happened somewhere in the galaxy. Elena ran to the communication center. Other diplomats were already there, looking confused and scared. The main screen showed Admiral Ziox 9 of the Chrommech Collective giving a report. Mining operation in Sector 7 Alpha is complete, the robot said in his flat electronic voice. Mineral extraction exceeded expectations. Total yield was 47 million tons of rare metals. Elena felt ice in her stomach. What about New Eden? What about the colony? Admiral Zix-9's red eyes looked at her through the screen. Unknown structures were removed during the operation. Standard procedure for mining efficiency. Unknown structures? Elena's voice got louder. Those were cities. 7 million people lived there. No life signs were detected during scanning, Zix-9 replied. The collective does not make mistakes. Elena stared at the screen. The robot was lying, and everyone in the room knew it. The Chrommech had found the human colony exactly where it was supposed to be. They had killed 7 million farmers and called them unknown structures. You murdered them all, Elena whispered. The collective removed obstacles to efficient mining. Zix-9 said. This action was approved by the Galactic Council. No laws were broken. Elena ran back to her office and called Earth Command. Admiral Harrison's face appeared on the screen. He looked older than he had 3 weeks ago. Elena, I'm sorry. We picked up the Chrommech fleet moving to New Eden, but we were too far away to help. They're all dead? Elena asked. New Eden is gone. The planet has been stripped down to the core. 7 million people, Elena. Men, women, children, all gone. Elena sat down heavily in her chair. She had known this might happen, but the reality of it felt like a punch to the chest. What did the survivors say? There were no survivors. The Chrommech used planet cracker ships. They broke the whole world apart to get to the minerals inside. Elena closed her eyes. 7 million people had trusted her to keep them safe. They had grown food to feed other human colonies. They had built schools and parks and homes. Now they were dust floating in space. Elena, Harrison said softly. It's time. She opened her eyes and looked at his face on the screen. Are you sure we're ready? We've been ready for 50 years. The question is whether you're ready to give the order. Elena thought about the farmers on New Eden. She thought about their children playing in fields of grain. She thought about the council meeting, where War Marshal Kethrak had laughed at her. Send the message, Elena said. Admiral Harrison nodded. Message sent. All units are now active. Project Revelation begins in 1 hour. Elena changed into her formal diplomatic uniform and walked back to the council chamber. The 5 major species were having an emergency session about mining disputes in other sectors. They were arguing about who would get the next planets to destroy. Elena walked to the center of the chamber. I request permission to address the council. War Marshal Kethrak looked annoyed. This is not the time for human complaints. We are discussing important matters. 7 million human lives are important to me, Elena said. The prime mind of the Zephyrians glowed with amusement. The humans in Sector 7 Alpha were relocated. Standard procedure. They were murdered, Elena said clearly. Every man, woman, and child on New Eden was killed when the Chrommech destroyed the planet. Elder synthesis floated higher above its seat. Young species often fail to adapt to galactic realities. This is natural selection. Elena looked around the chamber. Hundreds of alien diplomats watched her. Some looked sorry for the humans. Most looked bored. The 5 major powers looked like they were discussing the weather. The Terran Federation formally requests justice for the genocide on New Eden, Elena said. Admiral Zix, Nine's mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. No genocide occurred. Obstacles to mining operations were removed. This action was legal under council authority. Elena reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device. She placed it on the floor in front of the council seats. The device started glowing with a soft blue light. The Terran Federation rejects the council's authority in this matter, Elena said. Her voice was calm, but every word carried clearly through the chamber. We invoke Article 7 of the Galactic Charter, the right of species self-defense. The chamber went completely silent. Article 7 was old law that let species fight back when their survival was threatened. It had not been used in over 200 years. Then War Marshal Kethrak started laughing again. His rough voice boomed through the chamber. Self-defense? Against the Chrommech Collective? You have 30 old ships and 12 weak colonies. The humans cannot defend themselves against modern military forces. The Prime Mind said. This is mathematical fact. Unity, the Nexari energy being, pulsed with bright colors. Amusing. The children want to play war games. Elena waited for them to finish laughing. The small device at her feet was recording everything they said. Every insult. Every threat. Every dismissal of human life was being saved in its memory. The Terran Federation hereby declares a formal state of war against the Chrommech Collective for the crime of genocide, Elena announced. The laughter stopped. War Marshal Kethrak leaned forward in his seat. Did you just declare war on the Collective? Where? Content. Yes, Elena said simply. You will lose in less than 1 day, Admiral Zix-9 stated. The Collective fleet has 500 advanced warships. Human resistance will be eliminated efficiently. Elena picked up the recording device and put it back in her jacket. We will see. Chloe. As she turned to leave, War Marshal Kethrak called out to her. Human, your species has just committed suicide. When the Collective is done with you, there will be nothing left of Earth or its colonies. Elena stopped and looked back at him. For the first time since the massacre, she smiled. War Marshal, you have been studying us for 50 years. You think you know everything about humanity. We know you are weak, Kethrak said. You know what we wanted you to know, Elena replied. You have seen our diplomats, our traders, our farmers. You have never seen our soldiers. Elder Synthesis's ancient voice whispered through the chamber. Humans have soldiers? Elena's smile got wider. Every human is a soldier, Elder. We just forgot to mention that during our first meeting 50 years ago. She walked out of the chamber, leaving behind 5 confused alien species and hundreds of worried diplomats. As the doors closed behind her, Elena activated her personal communicator. Admiral Harrison, this is Ambassador Chen. The declaration has been delivered. Understood. All ships are moving to battle positions. The collective fleet is already heading toward our border. Elena walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime one last time. In a few hours, she would take the last human ship back to Earth. The galaxy was about to learn something that humanity had kept secret for 50 years. They were not farmers pretending to be warriors. They were warriors who had been pretending to be farmers. Admiral Zix-9 stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Void Render. Around him, 500 Chrommech warships moved through space like a metal storm. Each ship was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their shields could stop any known attack. The Admiral's red mechanical eyes studied the tactical display. Intelligence reports said humans had maybe 30 ships scattered across 12 colonies. This would not be a battle. It would be an extermination. Admiral, reported Captain Vel-7 from the sensor station. We have reached the edge of human space. Alpha Centauri system is ahead. Begin scanning for human vessels, Zix-9 ordered. Locate their fleet and destroy it. The Chrommech fleet spread out in perfect formation. Their scanners reached deep into space, looking for signs of human ships. For an hour, they found nothing. Then the sensors detected something small approaching from the inner system. 12 contacts detected, Vel-7 reported. Human ships, very small. No energy shields detected. Zix-9 looked at the display. 12 tiny dots moved toward his massive fleet. The human ships were so small they barely showed up on sensors. They had no shields, no heavy weapons, no advanced technology that the scanners could detect. Are they surrendering? Asked Captain Vel-7. No surrender signal received, reported the communications officer. They appear to be moving into attack formation. Zix-9 would have laughed if his mechanical body could make that sound. 12 tiny human ships against 500 Chrommech warships. It was like insects attacking a mountain. Target the human vessels, Zix-9 ordered. Fire when ready. The lead ships of the Chrommech fleet began charging their main weapons. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids powered up with deadly energy. Quantum torpedoes loaded in their tubes. The humans were flying straight into the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Then something impossible happened. The 12 human ships simply vanished. Report, Zix-9 demanded. Sensors show no contacts, Vel-7 said, confusion in his electronic voice. The human ships are gone. Gone where? Ships cannot just disappear. Unknown, Admiral. One moment they were there. The next moment, empty space. Zix-9 studied the tactical display. No ships. No debris. No energy signatures. The humans had simply stopped existing. Then the sensors went completely white. Emergency alarms screamed through the Chrommech fleet. Ship after ship reported the same thing. Their sensors were being overwhelmed by some kind of massive energy surge. But the energy was coming from everywhere at once. When the sensors finally cleared, Admiral Zix-9 stared at something that should not exist. Where his lead squadron of 150 ships had been, there was now empty space. Not destroyed ships, not floating wreckage, nothing. 150 advanced warships had been erased from existence. In their place, hanging in space like it had always been there, was a single human vessel. The ship was unlike anything in the galactic databases. It was huge, maybe twice the size of the Void Render. Its hull was smooth and black, with no visible weapons or engines. It looked more like a piece of space itself than a manufactured vessel. How? Vel-7 whispered. The human ship began broadcasting on all frequencies. The voice that came through was calm and female. Chrommech Fleet. This is Admiral Sarah Martinez, of the Terran Defense Force. You killed our farmers. Now you face our soldiers. Admiral Zix-9 activated his communication system. Human vessel, you are outnumbered 4-1. Surrender now, and your death will be quick. Admiral, the human voice replied. You still don't understand what you're facing. The black human ship began to move. But it didn't move like other ships. It seemed to bend space around itself, appearing in multiple locations at the same time. Zeke's 9 sensors showed the ship in front of his fleet, behind it, and beside it all at once. "Target that vessel," Zeke's 9 ordered. "All ships, fire everything." The Chrommech fleet unleashed hell. 400 ships fired plasma beams, quantum torpedoes, and fusion missiles at the human vessel. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon filled the space around the black ship. Every shot missed. The weapons passed through empty space where the ship had been a moment before. But the ship was still there. Still visible. Still impossibly present in 3 places at once. Then the human ship began firing back. The first Chrommech vessel to die was the cruiser Metal Storm. One moment it was firing its main guns at the human ship. The next moment, something invisible passed through its hull. The ship's metal began changing, turning into something that looked like gray dust. In seconds, the entire cruiser had become a cloud of particles that scattered in the solar wind. "What kind of weapon was that?" Vel 7 demanded. Before Zeke's 9 could answer, 10 more ships died. Whatever the humans were using, it ignored shields completely. It passed through the strongest armor, like it was made of paper. Ships didn't explode. They just stopped being ships. "All vessels, evasive maneuvers," Zeke's 9 ordered. But there was nowhere to run. The human ship was everywhere and nowhere. Its weapons fired from impossible angles. When Chrommech ships tried to retreat, they found their escape routes blocked by more human fire coming from empty space. One by one, the pride of the Chrommech fleet died. The battleship Iron Fist vanished in a flash of light. The destroyer Sharp Edge simply turned to dust. The heavy cruiser Voidwalker broke apart at the molecular level. Admiral Zeke's 9 watched his fleet being destroyed and could not understand how it was happening. The humans had no advanced technology. Their science was primitive. They had been farmers and traders for 50 years. "Admiral," Vel 7 reported, "we have lost 300 ships. Recommend immediate retreat." "Retreat where?" Zeke's 9 asked. "That ship is blocking every escape route." On his screen, Admiral Martinez's face appeared. She was middle-aged with gray hair and calm eyes. Behind her, Zeke's 9 could see a bridge that looked nothing like human technology he had seen before. "Admiral Zeke's 9, she said, "your fleet has 43 ships remaining. I will give you one chance to surrender." "The collective does not surrender to primitives," Zeke's 9 replied. Admiral Martinez nodded. "I thought you might say that." The remaining Chrommech ships died in minutes, not in explosions or fire. They simply stopped existing. One by one, as if they had never been built. Zeke's 9 watched his sensors as ship after ship winked out of reality. Finally, only the void render remained. "Last chance, Admiral," Martinez said. Zeke's 9 looked around his bridge. His officers stared at him with electronic eyes that showed something Chrommech machines were not supposed to feel. Fear. "How?" he asked. "How did you hide this technology?" Admiral Martinez smiled sadly. "We didn't hide our technology, Admiral. We hid ourselves. For 50 years, you thought you were watching human farmers and traders. You were actually studying our actors and spies. That's impossible. Our intelligence was perfect." "Your intelligence was perfect about the people we wanted you to see," Martinez replied. "But we are not those people. We are the ones who stayed hidden while our diplomats played weak and helpless." The void render systems began failing. Zeke's 9 could feel the same invisible weapon that had destroyed his fleet, now working on his flagship. "Who are you really?" he asked. "We are humanity, Admiral. Not the humanity that farms and trades. The humanity that survived ice ages and asteroid impacts and global wars before we ever left our planet. We are the species that had to become the most dangerous thing on our world just to stay alive." Zeke's 9's vision began to fade as his ship's power died. "The galaxy will stop you. The galaxy doesn't know we exist yet," Martinez said. "But they're about to learn." The Void Render's final transmission reached the Galactic Council just as the ship's hull turned to dust. It was 47 minutes of sensor data showing the complete destruction of the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. War Marshal Kethrak watched the recording in his war room on the Veish homeworld. Around him, his military advisors stared at screens showing impossible things. "Play it again," Kethrak ordered. They watched the recording 5 times. Each time, It showed the same thing. 12 small human ships had somehow destroyed 500 advanced Chrommech warships without taking any damage. "Sir," reported his intelligence chief, "we're receiving reports from across the galaxy. Human ships that we thought were cargo vessels are dropping their disguises. They're revealing military equipment we've never seen before." Kethrak felt something he had not experienced in 50 years of warfare. "Doubt. How many human ships are really out there?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. But preliminary reports suggest thousands." Kethrak looked at the tactical display showing human space. For 50 years, he had seen 12 weak colonies protected by 30 old ships. Now he was beginning to realize that might have been exactly what the humans wanted him to see. "Prepare the third armada," he ordered. "If the collective was too weak to handle farmers, then real warriors will show these humans what power means." His advisors looked uncertain. "Sir, perhaps we should study this new human technology first." Kethrak's scaled fist hit the table. "I will not be frightened by parlor tricks. Ready my ships. We attack in 1 week." As alarms sounded across the Veish military bases, War Marshal Kethrak stared at the recordings of the battle. Somewhere in the back of his warrior's mind, a small voice wondered if he was about to make the biggest mistake in galactic history. War Marshal Kethrak stood in the command center of his flagship, the Blood Honor. Around him floated the pride of the Veish Empire. 300 of the fastest, deadliest warships in the galaxy moved in perfect formation toward human space. The Veish had been warriors for 10,000 years. They had conquered 40 star systems and crushed every enemy they faced. Their ships were built for speed and killing. Their weapons could punch through any defense. Their tactics had been tested in 100 wars. "Marshal," reported Captain Veish from the tactical station, "we will reach the Kepler 442 system in 1 hour. Human colonies detected on 3 planets." Kethrak studied the star charts with his yellow warrior eyes. Unlike the Chrommech, he would not underestimate these humans. The destruction of the collective fleet had been shocking, but Kethrak was sure it was some kind of trick. Humans were still weak. They had just gotten lucky. "Deploy screening formations," Kethrak ordered. "I want sensor sweeps every 30 seconds. If these humans have invisible ships, we will find them." The Veish fleet spread out as it entered the system. Their sensors reached deep into space, scanning for any sign of human vessels. Advanced detection equipment that could spot a single fighter from 1,000,000 miles away searched every corner of the system. They found nothing. "Report," Kethrak demanded. "No human ships detected, Marshal." Captain Veish replied. "The 3 colonies show normal civilian activity. No military presence." "No. No." Kethrak's scaled fingers drummed on his command chair. This felt wrong. Where was the human fleet that had destroyed the Chrommech? Where were their mysterious superweapons? "Begin planetary bombardment," Kethrak ordered. "If they want to hide, we'll force them out." The first wave of Veish ships moved toward the nearest planet. Their plasma cannons began charging for a full surface attack. If humans wanted to play games, Kethrak would burn their worlds until they came out to fight. Then the sword of victory. A heavy cruiser on the fleet's left wing simply wasn't there anymore. "Captain Veish," Kethrak called. "Where is the sword of victory?" Veish checked his instruments twice. "Unknown, Marshal. The ship was there 30 seconds ago. Now sensors show empty space." "Ships don't disappear," Kethrak growled. "Find it." Before Veish could respond, 2 more ships vanished. The destroyer Fast Strike and the cruiser Warcry were there one moment and gone the next. No explosions. No weapon signatures. They just stopped existing. Kethrak felt his warrior instincts screaming warnings. This was not how battles were supposed to work. Enemies should be visible. They should fight with honor. They should not hunt from shadows like cowards. "All ships, defensive formation," Kethrak ordered. "Maximum shields. All weapons ready," but there was nothing to shoot at. The human ships remained invisible, while Veish vessels continued to disappear. Sometimes it was 1 ship. Sometimes 3 or 4 vanished together. Each time, there was no warning and no trace. "Marshal," Captain Veish reported, his voice tight with fear. We've lost 50 ships in 20 minutes. We still have no targets. Kethrak's comm system activated. A human voice spoke in perfect Veish. War Marshal Kethrak. This is Admiral Martinez. I believe we met briefly at Alpha Centauri. Show yourself, coward. Kethrak snarled into his communicator. Fight with honor. Honor? The human woman laughed. You came here to burn our colonies. You plan to kill millions of civilians. And you speak of honor? Around the fleet, more ships died. The battlecruiser Savage Wind became a cloud of metal fragments. The destroyer Quick Death broke apart at every joint. The assault ship Warhammer simply faded away like it was made of smoke. This is not battle, Kethrak protested. This is murder. No, Marshal, Admiral Martinez replied. This is hunting. We learned about your tactics 50 years ago. Every war game your people played. Every training exercise. Every battle formation. We studied you like scientists study insects. Kethrak's sensor officer looked up from his station. Marshal, I'm detecting movement in the asteroid field. Something large. On the main screen, space itself seemed to bend and twist. Then a human ship appeared, floating among the asteroids like it had always been there. It was smaller than Kethrak expected, maybe half the size of his flagship. Its hull was dark gray with strange patterns that seemed to shift and move. There, Kethrak pointed. All ships, target that vessel. Fire everything. 200 Veish warships turned their guns on the human ship. Plasma beams, fusion missiles, and particle cannons filled space with deadly energy. The firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. Every shot missed. The weapons passed right through the human ship like it was made of air, but the ship was still there, still solid, still impossible. Hologram, Captain Vex suggested. Holograms don't appear on sensors, Kethrak replied. He was beginning to understand that humans had technology beyond anything in the galactic databases. The human ship began moving toward his fleet. As it came closer, Kethrak could see details of its design. The hull patterns were not decorations. They were some kind of advanced technology that bent light and energy around the ship. Marshal, his weapons officer called out. Kethrak saw no weapon beams, no missiles, no visible attack of any kind. But 3 more of his ships died instantly. This time, he watched it happen. The ships didn't explode. Instead, their hulls began to twist and fold like someone was crumpling paper. In seconds, 3 proud Veish warships had been compressed into balls of metal barely larger than a person. What kind of weapon does that? Captain Vex whispered. Before anyone could answer, more ships died. The humans seemed to be able to attack from any direction at any time. Kethrak's formation began to fall apart as captains tried to avoid whatever was killing their ships. All vessels, retreat to the system edge, Kethrak ordered, but retreat was impossible. When Veish ships tried to run, they found their escape routes blocked by more invisible human vessels. Every direction led to death. Kethrak's proud fleet was being picked apart like prey animals. Admiral Martinez's voice came through the comm again. You're wondering how we're doing this. Tell me, Kethrak demanded. What weapons are you using? Gravity manipulation, space-time distortion, molecular reconstruction beams. Technologies we developed specifically for killing Veish ships. Kethrak felt ice in his blood. You developed weapons just for us? For all of you, Martinez replied. We've been preparing for this war for 50 years. Every species that looked down on us, every alien that called us weak. We studied your ships, your tactics, your psychology. We know exactly how to kill each of you. On his tactical display, Kethrak watched his fleet dying. 100 ships left. 90. 80. The humans were not just winning. They were playing with his forces like a cat plays with wounded prey. This is impossible, Kethrak said. 50 years ago, you were primitives. 50 years ago, we wanted you to think we were primitives, Martinez corrected. While your diplomats met with our actors, our real scientists were building weapons that could end civilizations. 60 ships left. 50. The Blood Honor was now surrounded by clouds of twisted metal that had once been the Veish Empire's finest vessels. Your mistake, Marshal, Martinez continued, was thinking that because we appeared weak, we actually were weak. On Earth, the species that survive are not the strongest or fastest. They are the ones that best understand their enemies. 40 ships. 30. Kethrak's crew looked at him with eyes that held no hope. The greatest military force in Veish history was being destroyed by an enemy they could not see or fight. Please, Kethrak said, and the word tasted like poison in his mouth. Warriors did not beg. But watching his people die for nothing was worse than shame. Marshal, Admiral Martinez said softly, your species has conquered 40 star systems. You have enslaved entire civilizations. You have gloried in war and celebrated death. Did you think that violence would never find its way back to you? 20 ships left. Kethrak's own flagship shuddered as something invisible grabbed hold of its hull. Through his windows, he could see space itself bending around the blood honor. My people will avenge us, Kethrak warned. Your people will learn to behave, Martinez replied. Because this is what happens to species that threaten humanity. We don't just defend ourselves, we make sure the threat never exists again. The blood honor's hull began to twist. Kethrak felt the ship's gravity systems failing as human weapons tore at the structure of space around his vessel. His crew held onto their stations as the deck tilted at impossible angles. In his final moments, War Marshal Kethrak understood what Admiral Martinez had been trying to tell him. Humans were not another species to be conquered. They were something else entirely. They were predators that had learned to look like prey. The last transmission from the Veish Third Armada reached the Empire's homeworld just as the blood honor folded in on itself like origami made of metal. The recording showed 300 advanced warships being systematically destroyed by an enemy that could not be seen, tracked, or fought. Across the galaxy, other species watched the transmission and began to realize a terrible truth. For 50 years, they had been sharing space with something that had been studying them, learning their weaknesses, and preparing for war. The humans had not been discovered by the galaxy. They had been infiltrating it. In the Etherian archives, ancient scholars worked frantically to find references to species like humanity. The Zephyrians tried to probe human minds and found them protected by mental defenses that should not exist. The Nexari energy beings discovered that human consciousness could somehow interact with pure energy in ways that terrified them, but it was too late for warnings. Across the galaxy, thousands of ships that had been disguised as human traders and explorers began revealing their true nature. Military bases that had been hidden as research stations came online. Weapons, platforms that had been orbiting as communications, satellites powered up their guns. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had not been playing the same game as everyone else. While other species had been competing for power and territory, humans had been preparing for total war, and the war was just beginning. The emergency meeting of the remaining galactic powers took place in the most secure location they could find. Deep inside the Etherian home system, protected by ancient shields and reality warping technology, the last free species gathered to plan humanity's destruction. The prime mind of the Zephyrians pulsed with angry blue light as it spoke without words to the others. Elder synthesis of the Etherians floated like a glowing jellyfish above the meeting table. Unity, the Nexari representative, flickered between different energy patterns as it tried to control its fear. The humans have destroyed 2 of the galaxy's major military forces, Elder Synthesis said in its ancient voice. This should not be possible. Our archives show humans as a young species with primitive technology. Your archives are wrong, the Prime Mind replied through telepathic waves. We have attempted to scan human minds for 50 years. They appear to think in basic patterns, but now we suspect those thoughts were false. Unity shifted to a red energy form that meant anger. Impossible. No species can fool Zephyrian mind reading for decades. Unless, Elder Synthesis said slowly, they have been planning this deception since before they made contact with us. The 3 species shared a moment of terrible understanding. If humans had been lying about their capabilities for 50 years, then everything the galaxy knew about them was false. The weak farmers and nervous diplomats might have been actors. The primitive technology might have been disguises. The small fleet of 30 ships might have been the smallest part of a much larger force. We must combine our strengths, the Prime Mind decided. Zephyrian mind control, Etherian reality shaping, and Nexari energy manipulation. Together, we can stop them. Agreed. Unity pulsed with determination. Humans may have hidden weapons, but they are still biological. Our powers work on biological minds. Elder Synthesis's ancient wisdom whispered warnings, but even it could not imagine how prepared humanity really was. The combined fleet that gathered to face humanity was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Zephyrian mind ships that could drive entire crews insane with a thought. Etherian vessels that could change the laws of physics around them. Nexari energy forms that could possess enemy ships and turn them against their own fleets. They met the human forces at the edge of the solar system, humanity's birth system. What they found waiting for them was a single ship. It was massive, bigger than any vessel in galactic history. The hull seemed to be made from pieces of destroyed Chrommech and Veish ships, welded together, with technology that should not exist. Weapons from a dozen different species lined its surface, but they had been changed in ways that made them more deadly than their original designs. Human vessel, the Prime Mind broadcast telepathically to the ship. You are outnumbered 300 to 1. Surrender and your deaths will be quick. The response came from a familiar voice. Ambassador Elena Chen appeared on their screens, but she was different now. Gone was the polite diplomat who had sat quietly in the observer section of the Galactic Council. In her place was someone who looked like she had been born for war. Prime Mind, Elder Synthesis, Unity, Elena said, speaking each name with cold precision. You have come to my people's home system to threaten us. That was a mistake. We have come to end your threat to galactic peace, Elder Synthesis replied. Elena laughed, and the sound made the alien leaders feel something they had not experienced in thousands of years. Fear of a predator. Galactic peace? You mean the peace where stronger species murder weaker ones for their resources? Where 7 million farmers can be killed and called acceptable losses? That kind of peace? The Prime Mind focused its telepathic power on Elena's mind. For 50 years, Zephyrians had been able to read human thoughts easily. Now the Prime Mind reached out to take control of Elena's brain and found something impossible. Her mind was not there. Instead of biological thoughts, the Prime Mind touched something cold and mechanical. Elena's consciousness was protected by mental barriers made of pure logic and calculation. When the Prime Mind tried to push deeper, defensive systems activated that felt like touching molten metal. Surprised? Elena asked, watching the Prime Mind recoil from her protected thoughts. Did you think we would not prepare for telepathic attacks? We have been practicing mental defense for 50 years. Unity, the Nexari energy being, tried a different approach. It sent tendrils of pure energy toward the human ship, planning to possess its computer systems and turn the vessel's weapons against itself. The energy tendrils touched the ship's hull and screamed. Unity's energy form flickered wildly as pain beyond anything it had ever experienced shot through its consciousness. The human ship was not just protected against energy possession, it was designed to trap energy beings and feed on their power. How? Unity gasped, in frequencies of light that showed its agony. Humans are very good at learning, Elena explained. When we discovered that Nexari are made of organized energy, we developed technology to disorganize that energy. Would you like a demonstration? Elder Synthesis watched its two allies writhe in pain and realized that humans had prepared specific weapons for each species. Just as they had developed gravity weapons for the Veish and molecular disruptors for the Chrommech, they had created mental shields for Zephyrian telepathy and energy traps for Nexari possession. This is impossible, Elder Synthesis whispered. No species could prepare for war against the entire galaxy. Elder, Elena said softly, you have lived for millions of years, but you still don't understand what you're dealing with. Let me explain something about humanity. The human ship moved closer to the alien fleet. As it approached, its hull began to change. Parts of it became transparent, showing the interior. Inside, the alien leaders could see thousands of humans working at stations filled with technology that looked like it came from every species in the galaxy. We are not like you, Elena continued. You evolved on worlds that were safe and comfortable. When your species developed intelligence, you used it to build cities, and art, and philosophy. That's very nice. But Earth was different. The images on the screen changed to show Elena's home planet. But this was not the peaceful blue world that human diplomats had shown the galaxy. This was Earth as it really was, a world of ice ages and volcanic eruptions, continents that moved and crushed everything on them, meteors that turned day into night and killed everything larger than insects. On Earth, intelligence was not enough to survive, Elena explained. The planet tried to kill us with cold, heat, disease, starvation, and natural disasters. The only humans who lived were the ones who learned to adapt to anything, plan for everything, and never trust that tomorrow would be the same as today. Elder Synthesis began to understand the terrible truth. You have been preparing for war since your species evolved. Oh no, Elder Synthesis. Elder Synthesis began to understand. Every human is born knowing that survival depends on understanding your enemies better than they understand themselves, Elena confirmed. When we reached space and met other species, we did what humans always do. We studied you. We learned your strengths and weaknesses. We prepared for the day when you would try to destroy us. The alien fleet tried to retreat, but found their escape routes blocked by more human ships that seemed to appear from empty space. Hundreds of vessels that had been hiding with technology beyond galactic understanding began to surround the combined fleet. This is impossible, the Prime Mind repeated desperately. We monitored human space for 50 years. You had 12 colonies and 30 ships. You monitored what we wanted you to see, Elena replied. Our real colonies are hidden in systems you never knew existed. Our real fleet has been building in the empty spaces between galaxies. The 12 worlds and 30 ships were just the pieces we were willing to lose if you attacked us. The truth was worse than any of them had imagined. For 50 years, the galaxy had been infiltrated by human agents, pretending to be traders, diplomats, and explorers. Every time they had shared technology with humans, every time they had explained their capabilities, every time they had demonstrated their weapons, they had been teaching humanity how to destroy them. Unity's energy form was fading as the human ship continued to drain its power. What do you want? It managed to pulse. We want the galaxy to learn how to behave, Elena answered. For too long, strong species have bullied weak ones. Powerful civilizations have destroyed peaceful ones. That ends now. Elder Synthesis tried one last desperate move. It reached out with reality-warping power to change the laws of physics around the human ship. If it could alter space-time itself, it might still save the Alliance. The Etherean's power touched something that felt like touching the sun. Elena's ship was not just protected against reality manipulation. It was designed to use that manipulation as fuel for its own weapons. Did you really think, Elena asked as Elder Synthesis screamed in pain, that we would not prepare for enemies who could change the laws of physics? Humans have been surviving impossible things for millions of years. The alien fleet began to surrender ship by ship. Some tried to fight, and were destroyed by weapons they could not understand. Others tried to flee, and were captured by technology that made escape impossible. The greatest military alliance in galactic history was defeated in less than an hour. When the last alien ship had been captured, Elena broadcast a message to every world in the galaxy. My name is Elena Chen, and I speak for the Terran Federation. For 50 years, your leaders have treated humanity as children who needed to be managed. You have restricted our growth, stolen our resources, and murdered our people. Today, that chapter of galactic history ends. On 1,000 worlds, alien leaders watched human ships appear in their skies. Vessels that had been disguised as cargo haulers and research ships revealed weapons that could destroy planets. Space stations that had seemed like peaceful trading posts activated shields that could protect entire star systems. The galaxy now operates under new rules, Elena continued. Wars between species are forbidden. Genocide is punishable by extinction. Strong civilizations will protect weak ones, not destroy them. These rules will be enforced by the Terran Federation, but we offer partnership, not slavery. Species that choose to work with humanity will find us generous allies. We will share our technology, protect your worlds, and help you explore the universe. The choice is yours. The Galactic Council met for the last time in a human ship orbiting Earth. The same alien leaders who had laughed at Elena's warnings now sat quietly as she explained the new order. They could see through the ship's windows the massive orbital structures that surrounded humanity's home world. Cities in space that housed billions of humans. Shipyards that could build fleets large enough to conquer galaxies. Defense platforms that could destroy anything that threatened Earth. "How long have you been planning this?" War Marshal Kethrak asked. He was a prisoner now, the sole survivor of his fleet. "Since before we left Earth," Elena answered honestly. "When our first explorers found evidence of galactic civilization, we knew we would eventually have to deal with species more powerful than ourselves. So we prepared. For 50 years, we sent actors to play the role of weak humans, while our real military spread across the galaxy in disguise. Every trade mission carried hidden weapons. Every diplomatic meeting was a chance to study our future enemies. Every colony ship was also a warship in disguise. Admiral Zeke's 9, his mechanical body now powered by human technology, asked the question that terrified every species in the galaxy. "How many humans are there really?" Elena smiled. "Enough." She gestured to the display screens around the meeting room. They showed star charts of the galaxy with tiny lights marking human presence. There were thousands of lights. In every star system. Around every major world. Hidden among every trade route. "The galaxy contains roughly 400 billion stars," Elena explained. "We have established a presence in approximately 40 billion star systems. Not all of them have colonies, but all of them have human assets that can be activated if needed." The alien leaders stared at the star charts in horror. The galaxy had not been infiltrated by humanity. The galaxy had been conquered by humanity without anyone realizing it. "What happens now?" Elder Synthesis asked. "Now you learn to live in a universe where the strongest species protects the weakest instead of destroying them," Elena replied. "You adapt to a galaxy where intelligence and cooperation matter more than military power and cruelty. You discover what it means to be part of a civilization instead of just a collection of competing empires." "And if we refuse?" Elena's expression never changed, but somehow the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Then you become extinct, and the galaxy moves on without you." Years later, historians would mark this moment as the beginning of the true galactic age. Not the age of conquest and competition that had existed before, but an age of exploration and cooperation under human guidance. Species that accepted the new order found that humanity was as generous in peace as it was terrible in war. Human technology transformed barren worlds into gardens. Human medicine extended life and cured diseases. Human ships opened pathways to galaxies beyond the Milky Way. But those few species that tried to rebel learned why Earth had produced the most successful predator in the universe. They learned that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or their military. It was their ability to understand their enemies completely and plan for every possible threat. The galaxy was at peace at last. Not the fragile peace of competing powers, but the lasting peace of a universe where the strong protected the weak, and everyone shared in the benefits of civilization. And at the center of it all, humanity stood watch. The species that had learned to survive on a world that tried to kill them had now become the guardians of a galaxy that was learning to live.